Today we're taking a look at the new 60 centimeter bicolor in RGB tube light from Falconeyes, the FI-2. So let's get into it. Hey, what's up? I'm Scott and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for more no-nonsense tutorials and reviews. So I'll put in some tests here while I'm talking, or possibly later in the video, to show things like the light spread compared to other types of lights, the light quality, the brightness, things like that. But in a tube light like this, there are a few key things that I'm looking for. First, for me, in pretty much any light, is that the actual color temperature output is at least close to what is displayed on the screen, so that I can easily and reliably mix it with other lights. After that, of course, comes things like ease of use, the output power and light quality, being easy to mount in different ways, the build quality, and in something compact like this, both internal and external power options are great to have. More and more lights also have app control, so we will take a quick look at that too. A nice carry case like this is just the cherry on top. And then special effects and advanced features like DMX control, at least for me, are also extras that I wouldn't consider core concerns for a majority of users, but they are things that this light has and could definitely give it a big step up for some people. But first up, some of the basic specs. Okay, and now let's take a look at the light itself. So it's got this nice padded case here. Let's open it up. Inside you can see there's space for the tube light, of course, as well as both parts of the charger, which we'll take a look at in just a second. So when you get this out, it's actually fairly heavy. It feels very well made. There's like this clear plastic that goes all the way around it. You've got the diffusion in front here over the LED. You've got a row of buttons here, which we'll talk about in a second. You've also got a bunch of information here right built into the light. So even if you throw away the instructions, which I think most people do, you've got a bunch of information built right into there, which is nice. You can see what looks like these rubber pads here. These are actually magnets to hold this onto a metal surface, which is very, very useful. And they are strong enough. There's one here, and then there's one at the other end. Now at one end here, you've got some connections for, of course, the external power input, but also DMX in and DMX out, as well as a 1/4-20 screw thread. And this is solid here. This is all metal right here. It's got a nice grip on the edge of it, if that really matters to you. Maybe to screw it in tight to a light stand or something like that. On the other end, you've got a 3/8 inch screw thread here, and that's actually really useful for me because I was at a shoot just a few days ago where I wanted to put this on top of a light stand, kind of like I have this one right here, and I didn't realize that it wasn't a 3/8 inch screw, it was a 1/4 inch screw. So I didn't have any of those adapters with me, but I could just flip this around, and then I've got 1/4 inch on the other side. So it's nice to have both options there. Of course, it's a tube light, doesn't matter really which end is on the bottom, so it's nice to have both options there. Now this end here with a 3/8 inch screw thread is actually a metal cap, and if you unscrew that, you've got this little string here, this little loop that you can actually pull on to pull out the internal battery. Now you can see you've got a D-tap connection here, so that's how it's going to connect inside of the tube light to the light itself, and that's also how we're going to charge it with that charger, which we'll look at in just a second. And then you can see printed right on here that this is 14.8 volts, 3.2 amp hours, and just over 47 watt hours. This is a 25 watt light, so that means that this will last about an hour and a half to 2 hours on full power. Now, being removable, this also means that in theory you could get more of these and you could just cycle those out through a day of shooting and not have to worry about using any external power. Of course, you can power this with external power as well, but you could remove this battery and replace it with a new one. So not only does it have a built-in battery, so you have those options for external or internal, depending on how you're rigging it up, but you could replace it, which means that when the internal battery runs out, it's not theoretically just dead in the water or only reliant on external power. You could replace that, which is pretty unique and very, very useful. As you try to place that back in there, it will only really go in one way, so you don't have to worry about that D-tap connection accidentally connecting the wrong direction and having problems like that. But just push it right in there and then screw the cap back on. So now you've got the charger or the cable for external power here. It comes in two parts. This part which goes into the wall and then plugs into the brick here, and then the part that goes from the brick actually has both the DC barrel to power the light itself off of mains power, and it also does just before that in the cable have a little D-tap connection here, and that's what you're going to use to plug into the battery if you want to charge the battery up. So it's the same charger that works for both powering the light and also for recharging that internal battery. Let's get this case out of the way. Alright, so you've got a row of buttons on here for the physical controls. They've got like a rubbery texture to them, easy to feel, very nice and raised up off the body here, and they have a nice click to them, if you can hear that. So a nice confident click, very easy to use. Naturally, my battery's dead from a shoot a couple days ago and I forgot to recharge it. So we're gonna go ahead and plug it in and then we'll move on with showing you how it actually works. All right, let's try that again. So push the power button once to turn it on, takes just a second, and then you can push it once to turn it off again if you want to. Let's turn it back on now, of course. Like I said, these left and right arrows will jump between the intensity and the color temperature in this mode, and then you can use these up and down arrows to adjust that. So the color temperature will go from 2500 up to 9,999K. It's a huge range of white light, more than most people will probably use, and it will jump up and down in 50K increments, and if you hold this down it will jump in much larger, faster increments, and that'll make the jump all the way from one extreme to the other fairly quickly. The cycle button here will jump from what we're in now, the white light mode, CCT mode, over to your scenes. So let's jump through the scenes. For example, you've got scene 1, which is lightning. My intensity right now is at 0, so you can't see anything. Use this bracket to jump over to my intensity. And let's up that to about 50 for now. So you can see this is lightning by the little icon there. At speed 0, you can see that there is quite a long gap in between that effect, and it's fairly slow. So it will jump over to that parameter, and you can adjust the speed as well. Go up to 10, and you can see it's a lot faster here. Scene 2 is another lightning mode, so it's a little bit of a different pattern. So I guess you could jump back and forth between 1 and 2 there if you wanted to spice it up a little bit. Scene 3 is TV mode, so this will, dim and brighten as if you were watching TV. Fairly standard. Scene 4 is a candle, so that's kind of a warm flicker. Looks pretty decent, I guess. Again, you can adjust the speed and the intensity of all of these. Scene 5, paparazzi. Scene 6 is just a strobe. Scene 7 is some kind of lights here. I'm not going to jump through all of these. Hazard lights, a heart, an ambulance, 119, that's kind of a police. So you've got some different variety. You've got your HSI cycle modes, your red and green flashing modes, things like that. These are fairly typical, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. But you do at least have your speed adjustment and your intensity adjustment if you're curious how much customizability these special effects do have. So next up is your HSI mode. This is hue, saturation, and intensity. Again, using the arrow here to jump between the different parameters. Right now it's at 100% saturation and 100% intensity. So if I scroll through these colors here, it'll cycle through. Once it gets up to 360, it'll jump back around. And again, as always with this light, holding the button down will allow you to go through things faster. But if I click, of course, you've got 1 degree adjustments for very fine control over which color you're actually looking at. You've also got RGB control, so you can dial in the exact mix of R, G, and B to make whatever color you want if you're matching it to another light, or if you know specifically how you want to dial that in. It can be useful to have. You've also got some filters, so let's jump through here. You've got Lee 48, for example. Let me up my intensity so we can actually see what we're looking at here. We've got Lee 48, 602, 117. So these are different standard filters from Lee. So if you want to emulate some specific filter that you know or have or like, then you've got that built into here as well. You've also got Roscoe filters if you jump through there, and that's going to work again the same way. You've got the code there for the different Roscoe gels, and then you've got Bluetooth resets. So again, this does have that mobile app, so if you have any problems with your connection, you can reset the Bluetooth settings right there. We're just going to jump past that for now. You've got your channel and your ID. Again, this is if you're making some connection with it and you need to go in there and customize that. And then it goes back to CCT mode. I've probably already shown it on screen, but I'll show it quickly again now as I'm talking for a second here. The color quality, the light quality at some different key, maybe both ends of the range of the color temperature range, and also, tungsten, daylight, things like that, as well as, more importantly for me, how accurately that 2500K, 3200, 5600K, how accurate that display is to the color that's actually being put out from the light. And also, I will put some results on screen in terms of the lux, the brightness of the light. But do keep in mind that the way that this is spread with its built-in diffusion and the longer tube style design, although the numbers might not be so dramatically different from, for example, some of the more powerful little pocket lights that are on the market, the way that it's spread out is going to be different. The way that it looks is going to be different. And I'll show you, I guess, as much as I can, some sort of practical examples of that. Also, because of this diffusion, it's not going to have any problems with multiple shadows like some of those little panel style LEDs might. And it's going to be a very pleasant light in general. So these tube lights are very, very nice light, not only in that you can put them in places that other lights really can't go and they can do things that other lights really can't do, but that they have a very nice spread of light for a fairly compact size. So we'll take a look at that as much as I can show you in my limited skill. But let's see now how the mobile app tends to work. So the app is called Desal Light, and we've got it open right now. Click the little plus in the top corner to add a device. And we've got two here. You can see I've got one on the table and one behind me. On this page here, which has the channel and the ID, you can see this is 5943. So we're going to go ahead and click plus next to that one. And once it's connected, you see the check mark. We'll also add the other one while we're at it. Click plus next to 65B7, and that one's now added. So now that they're added, if you want to check which one is which, you can click the little light icon on here, and you can see the light turning on and off. Let me go over back into CCT mode. You can see the one on the table here going flashing on and off to indicate which is which for me here. Let's go back to the main page, and you can see both of those lights here displayed in the home page. Again, you've got power buttons if you want to check which is which. You can turn them on and off like that right from this home page. And then if you hold your finger down on one of these, you've got options like editing the name, deleting it, or seeing some information about the device, for example, right here. We'll jump into 5943, which is the light that we have on the table. And you can see this is the main screen that you're going to get. So right now we're in HSI mode according to the app. So if I start dragging that color picker around, you can see that the light will go to that. It's kind of a slow fade to that light, which is interesting. Usually these things have more of like a very sudden jump to that color, but this is kind of smoothly moving over to that, which is kind of cool actually. You know, if you're playing with this while you're actually recording, that would be actually a much more pleasant thing to see if you want to go from green to red. But on the bottom you've got your intensity as well, and that also does look like it kind of slowly fades down there, which is very interesting. You can tap individual parameters to actually dial them in exactly how you want them. And again, it makes that smooth transition there. You can turn it on and turn it off from here. You can also pull the arrow over from the side to jump between the different devices that you have, or a group if you make a group of lights. You've got RGB controls up here as well, so you can dial in the R, the G, and the B. This looks like a little bit more of a quick transition compared to before. This just jumps. So this HSI mode will move around a bit more smoothly, but if you're in RGB control, it looks like it will jump up fairly suddenly as you make those changes. You've also got your Lee gels. You can just tap and jump between them here. You can adjust your intensity down at the bottom as usual, jump through those different filters. So if you're not familiar with the filters, this is going to be an easier visual way to do that. You've got your Roscoe filters as well, and those are the modes that you have on the light. Down the bottom, you've got color CCT mode as well. So you can jump between some presets. You can adjust your intensity here. Jump between 3200, 4000, 5500, 6000, 7000. And you can also adjust your green magenta shift, which is very, very nice. Let's leave it right in the middle for now. That's actually one function that you don't get from the light itself, is being able to adjust that green magenta shift, which is very, very nice. Again, if you're matching it to other lights and one of the lights has a shift or doesn't have a shift, or it's just in the opposite direction from this light, being able to make small adjustments to that green magenta shift is a really great way to be able to, again, mix lights together. So I appreciate that. You've got the scene modes here again with a more visual representation of what they are. It's a little bit easier to see than the small icons on the screen, as well as it having the titles here. So you've got your police car, You've got your fire truck, you've got your red flash, things like that. Party, that's a cool one. Let's adjust the intensity here. You can adjust the speed as well through this app. You've also got music mode, which I have seen before in some other apps. You can import music from iTunes. I don't have any music in iTunes on my phone, but you've got music mode. I'm not going to go far into that. You've got picture mode. This is now the color picker. I don't have anything really colorful to look at. Let's grab the orange from that tape there. Boom. So the color picker is also built into this, which is really cool. You can also go through your photos. You can take a photo. I'm going to cancel that. You can go through your photo album. Let's ignore that. It's pictures of my cats and my daughter. Very full-featured app, actually. Fairly easy to use. And it's nice to have some extra functionality that you don't get from the light itself. So I think that this light is fairly priced for all that it has. It's not the cheapest on the market, but it's also not the most expensive, especially considering it's really solidly built. It's got a pretty powerful output, good light quality. It's got everything built into the RGB, HSI, special effects. It has DMX in, DMX out. It has internal and external batteries with a removable battery, which is really great. You've got everything you could really need. You've got the magnetic build on here, so really a lot in this light. Really a very useful light, and if you're looking for a tube light, this is one of the better choices on the market. There are multiple choices now, of course, but this is a really good choice and one that I would definitely be happy recommending. Honestly, my biggest complaint is that I don't like this design here. It just looks a little bit cheap to me with that clear plastic cover over the little graphic, whatever you want to call it. I don't really like that all that much, but that's just me. Otherwise, the light itself is solid, reliable, good color, good brightness, and I love the power options. And that makes a big difference in a light like this, being able to mount it anywhere, 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch magnets. You could use brackets, of course, if you have some kind of bracket to hold this. Very useful light. Highly recommend it, but if you have any questions or comments, please let me know down below and I will do my best to get back to you. If you liked this video or found it helpful, if you're still watching after all my rambling, thank you very much. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, share, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.